Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Adoptees podcast. So today we have two fantastic guests for you. Not one, but two fantastic guests from Canada. We love to hear from Canadian guests. They are underrepresented. We have lots of guests from the UK, lots of guests from America, less so from Canada. So delighted to welcome Marnie and Gail to the show. Welcome. Thank you for sharing your time with us today.
Thanks, Simon.
We had a great conversation when it was 3 weeks ago, something like that. I'm not sure. I've been looking forward to this one. So perhaps could you introduce yourselves to the listeners, please? Maybe we could start with you, Marnie.
Okay, I'm Marnie Tetz. I am a reunited adoptee, and I was just almost feeling like I was at a support group. I was going to tell you how I feel.
You can if you like.
Okay, well, I'm feeling excited and nervous.
All right. Fantastic. And Gail, could you introduce yourself, please?
Okay, I'm Gail Davies, and I'm a reunited birth mother with our relationship has fallen apart. It was good for 15 years, but the last while it's fallen apart. Yeah.
Tricky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So could you share a little bit more of since we're with you, Gail, could you share a little bit more about more about that and more about the story, if you just as much as you feel comfortable sharing?
Okay. Should I? Well, I start right. I was 17 when my daughter was born. I was sent to a home for unwed mothers, and I spent 10 days in the hospital with her, feeding her. And the 10th day was the day I was going home, and the day that I had to sign the papers. Didn't want to. I was told by the social worker that they had this wonderful family for her to go to. The father would have his own business. The mother was a nurse. And my mother said to me, "You have to go to work. There's nobody to look after, and I'm not going to look after her." So I felt I had to sign the papers, and I felt I had no choice. And but I just always longed to find her. And when she was 27, I found out about we had the reunion registry, and I put my name in, and she had put her name in, and a few months later they matched us up. And we had a good relationship. It wasn't the same as the relationship with the daughter that I raised. Her mother and I got to be quite close. We kept in touch, and she always said that she wished that I had been in Alison's life with her when she was growing up. She felt it would be easier for her. It would have been easier for her. And but it got, after about 15 years, well, she moved back into the East Coast to Newfoundland, and I'd gone to see her out there, and she was struggling. And anyway, she always felt jealous of the relationship I had with the daughter I raised, and felt that Livia, the daughter I raised, got to do more things. And because my daughter, Livia, was a dancer, and I was a backstage mother, and we toured, Australia, New Zealand, Finland, and Russia, and Canada and the States and stuff. And Alison, always something she had wanted to do, so she was kind of jealous of the things that Livia had done. And I was paying for my grandson to come out for Christmas, and anyway, just things got mixed up. She was angry with me, and since then she hasn't talked to me. And I emailed her. On her 45th birthday, I emailed her happy birthday, but I didn't know what else to say because she wasn't talking to me. I'd phone and I talked to my grandson, but she wouldn't talk to me. And when that happened, when my grandson came out that year, she wouldn't let me see him because she felt I wasn't being friendly enough. So things just got, I know it's really hard. Now she's living in Australia, so it's really hard to try and connect. I'm still in touch with my grandson, but not with her. Yeah. So it is. Yeah, I feel bad, but at least the thing I'm glad I did find her, and that because the hard part was all those years not knowing where she was and how she was and that. So, and I did feel when I found her, I did feel like I had this hole in my heart and it kind of closed over and that. And I had friends that said to me that there had always been a sadness in my eyes and it was gone once I found her. So, yeah. So, so that's, I guess, basically, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's, what can I say? That's tricky. There was a time of peace and some healing there, and then some raw stuff obviously afterwards as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So Marnie, could you share a little bit about your story, please?
Well, I'm an adoptee. I was adopted at, I think it was 10 days. I wasn't in foster care or anything, just went straight to my adoptive home. And my adoptive parents already had an adopted daughter that was 5 years older than me. So, I mean, we had a good family life, and I mean, we knew we were loved, we knew we were adopted, and we also, you know, as my sister and I became adults and talked about it, we both always knew it was something that we didn't talk about. We didn't ask any questions because that's just, you know, they told us we were adopted, that's all we needed to know. But you know, as we got older, we were curious about, you know, where we came from, and so I think my sister was 33 and I was 28, and we managed to get mom and dad out of the house to go for a walk with our husbands and kids. So we were going to clean up the kitchen, but in reality, we were going to snoop to see if we could find information. And we did. And so I just thought, we were born in Edmonton, Alberta. And so I just called social services on the Monday thinking, well, you know, I'm just going to tell them who I am and they're going to tell me everything I want to know, and there we go. But that wasn't to be. The records were sealed, so no information, which made me mad, because how could someone tell me that I can't tell you anything, but they're sitting there looking at my information. So they know all about me, but I can't know all about me. Anyhow, you know, a few more years go by and we registered with a passive registry. And then in 2000, I was united with a brother who was born after me. And I found out, almost a year later, when I did pay for a search to find my mother, that she had had a daughter before me, and then she'd had me, and then she'd had my brother, who the three of us had been placed for adoption. And when I did go to meet my mother, she denied that she was my mother. And anyhow, I knew it wasn't that she had dementia, or I just knew it was that she just couldn't go there. And so she lived in Edmonton and I lived here in BC. So I would go and see her once or twice a year. And she was happy to have me come and visit. And as the years kind of went by, I became her adopted daughter, which I thought, well, I'm adopted, I am your daughter. So I was fine with that. And then I went to see her in 2007, and I had kind of been coached by a counselor here in BC, and also by Joe Saul, who is from New York, that you know, she was not allowed to be my mother. She was told by, you know, the powers that be that basically she wasn't good enough to be my mother. So of course she didn't think she was my mother. So they said, just approach her with, I had two mothers, one who raised me and one who gave birth to me. And then just tell her that you think she's the one that gave birth to you. And I did that. I got her in a quiet place and I was holding her hand and looking into her eyes. And I said that to her, and she said, I think so too. Which I think it took 6 years for her to get to the place where she could really trust someone. And she trusted me enough that she could admit that she was my mother. And I can only imagine what a weight that lifted from her shoulders. And I mean, what it gave to me, I mean, obviously it was a gift to me that she was able to say those words. And through it all, I was fortunate to have the support of the Forget Me Not Family Society. That's where I met Gail. And without that support, I think I really would have gone nuts. I just thought I was nuts, but I found out that the thoughts and feelings I had were very, very normal. And I mean, that in itself is a gift, to be with people that can finish your sentence, that to find out they have the same thoughts, they have the same feelings, and to find out that you're not alone. I think that's huge. And that's how important the support is to help you through these incredibly hard, confusing times.
Yeah. Wow, these are powerful stories. So can you tell me a little bit more about the Forget Me Not Foundation?
Well, I don't know. Gail has been with the Forget Me Not Family Society since before it was the Forget Me Not Family Society. So maybe Gail could start and then I can add.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Forget Me Not Family Society originally started in 1992, became a society missing pieces through adoption, and it was just a support group, and there was quite a few support groups in the Vancouver area in British Columbia. And then there was a few people that wanted to break away and do more, and so we formed the Forget Me Not Family Society. I was asked to be the secretary treasurer. So then we started having conferences and working with the government to open the records. And so we got that opened records in 1996, and we had for several years conventions. Our first one was in February 1993, and we had and then it started, things opened up so much that the conventions, we weren't getting as many people, so we stopped that. So basically, yeah. And now we don't have as many support groups, but we still have them, and we do workshops and things like that. So yeah.
So this is for everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So normally we're talking about thriving adoptees as the name of the podcast, but I guess today it's broader than that. It's everybody thriving. Mm-hmm. It's everybody thriving. And so I was wondering if you could share what you've learned, maybe what you've learned that you'd like to share with the listeners about what helps people in the adoption triad thrive. Let's make it a bit wider. Let's make it a bit broader today, because that's more in keeping with what you guys do.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
I kind of forgot the question.
Okay. So what helps? What have you learned personally and through Forget Me Not and the predecessor organization? Predecessor? I can't even what helps? What have you learned that helps people in the adoption triad thrive that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Okay, I'm going to go first. I have learned that it is my opinion, the most important thing that we are all together, that we aren't just adoptees meeting or birth parents meeting or adoptive parents meeting. I think we all have to be together, because otherwise we're just going to be kind of on that little hamster wheel. We're going around and around. Our stories are all kind of the same, but we don't know what that other part of the equation is. So I think that if we include everybody, then we can learn from each other. I mean, I know that at first, when I was going to some of the support group meetings, like I felt like my sentences could be finished and my feelings and thoughts were being understood, but yet there seemed to be like maybe, and because it's quite a few years ago now, but there also could have been some meetings where there were more moms than adoptees. So this could have been why I had the thought that, you know, it's all about the moms. And then I think once I got over that thought, then I started listening. And that's when it was like, oh, like you didn't forget about us. You loved us, you never forgot about us. And I think that that's the important piece, is that we learn from each other and we listen to each other and we ask questions of each other, so that then we can take another little baby step forward. And that's, I think, how we move towards healing, is by listening to each other and learning from each other and sharing our experiences. Because if I hadn't listened and learned to the moms, I would not have been able to have the compassion for my mom that I did have. And so, and I think that it's important for the adoptive parents to be there so that they can learn how difficult it was for the moms to lose their babies. And I think that it's important for the moms to hear from the adoptive parents, you know, like how much they just, you know, love these children. And then it's important for siblings. And, you know, I just think that we need to be as inclusive as possible. And I think that that's what helps us thrive. I think that's a good word, thrive.
Yeah. You know, the thing that came to my mind as you were filling up, you know, with as you shared that, was I haven't watched them for a bit, but I watched the Long Lost Family, the UK series of Long Lost Family, which is often about reunions, and how I see the mothers talking about the love for the kids that they have had adopted, and the tears come streaming down my face, but they are tears of relief, joy, love. They're a reminder for me, of how wrong I was for a while about my birth mother.
Mm-hmm.
And the tears come, and I'm like, bring it on. This is the tears are the melting away of the pain and realization of how wrong I was when I thought that my birth mother didn't love me enough to keep me. Right. That sounds like a little bit like what you got, what you get from me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Gail is, you're our mom.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
it's, I know Gail has told me, I don't even know if I can. Gail, when your mom was driving you home from Maywood, and you were looking out over the bay, I just picture you as a 17-year-old girl that's just had to sign away your baby. And here, like how lost and alone you must have felt. And that's just, it's so heartbreaking. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a hard drive. I could still see that driving along and looking at the ocean and just feeling like a zombie, like they're just, I had, nothing. Yeah. Took a long time.
Carrying on as if nothing happened.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it really helped me with the support group meetings, hearing the adoptee side of the story, to understand where my daughter was coming from. because, you know, and that's what I found with it, just hearing them talking and just, it, yeah, it really helped. And my daughter and I were just, at first, I mean, it was especially that first year, we were just like in a honeymoon. We couldn't, always holding hands and wanting to be together. And Livia had a hard time with it because Alison and I would make plans, and then Livia, I'd say, Alison and I are doing this. Do you want to join us? And she'd always used to being me doing everything with her. She was first, but and it was just, and then so, but it was I just I go back to we were talking about. It just really helped, and it does help too to hear the adoptive moms too. I came to a place after, going to the convention in the American Adoption Congress and hearing the adoptive parents at our group being able to tell her parents that I realized how much they did love her, and it really helped our relationship too. So because that was hard. It was hard. I mean, I would go have Thanksgiving dinner with them and different things with them, and birthdays, my grandson's birthdays and that. And it was always hard seeing her mother with her and feeling on the outside. So I can imagine what it was like for her with my daughter that I raised. She'd feel on the outside, yet we still had this connection and this closeness, right? Yeah. So I don't know what else, what else to say there. It was just really, really hard. The longing and wanting to see them, and then just, but you can't get back what you had before, but it just was so wonderful just to know her and see her and be able to be with her and that, yeah. She got, maybe I should say we went, after we found each other a year later, I decided to take both of my daughters on the holiday to the Bahamas and Florida, just to make some memories together. And so the first day in the Bahamas, she met somebody and she wanted to be with him all the time. So she was with him and hardly with us and that. And so when we left there to go to Florida, we're on the boat, and I said to her, she was really, you could tell she was really down. And I said, "You're really having a hard time leaving?" And she said, "Yes." But she was so moody and hard in Florida. And I said something to her one day. I said, Alison, Bahamians, they have a different idea of love and marriage, in that. And she just got so mad at me. And she just said to me, "Stop trying to be my mother. You gave me up. So F off." And that was like, oh. So I had to really be careful what I was doing the rest of the holiday. What I was saying, yeah. And then, but then, it's her parents were her mom was really understanding that after that, while we were still talking, every Christmas, her mom let her come to us for Christmas because she felt she needed it, Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she, even that year, it was November, after a couple of weeks after we came back, she was like, "What are we doing for Christmas this year?" So, yeah.
Yeah. She'd gotten over it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
It seems to me that underneath all the details of the stories, and underneath all the stories, there's this big, profound, warm bath of love and understanding, mm-hmm. and empathy and shared experience, and all in it together. And when I say understanding, I don't mean like a rational understanding. Mm-hmm. You can't do a podcast where you don't say anything. We have to fill in we have to talk. Mm-hmm. But I almost feel at this point that we could just sit here in that bath of love, that when all the stories disappear and all the and the tears are flowing, we're just all in that place of oneness together. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like we're all in it together, and that's what we're looking for in a support group, or even at a rock concert, you know, or a football match. We're all in it. We're all in it together. We've lost the self, and we're all one. Yeah, bath of love, where everybody understands one another, and there's no anger. You know, contrast the anger on holiday in Bahamas to the love and the healing that you felt at other stages. You know, where we're kind of like, whoa. I'm struggling with the words on this, actually.
Well, I like how you're describing it as, you know, as we're one whole, like together in our feelings and our thoughts, and a lot of times none of those are rational. But I think the way that we get there is by, you know, like doing the support, because I don't think that you can get to that place unless you've got support, and that you've been able to talk and listen and be with people that understand how you're feeling. Because if you were just to go and have a discussion with somebody whose life has not been impacted by adoption, they're going to kind of look at you like, oh, I think you're a little crazy. You know what I mean? Because they just think, well, you found them, you know? So yeah. I think that
or why do you want to find them? You don't need to find them.
Or why do you want to find them? Because didn't you have a happy life? But it's got nothing to do with that. And you know what? It's just kind of like you said that, and it just makes me think about, at the end of one of our workshops, we usually have a support group meeting, just so everyone can kind of, like if they're feeling a little messed up or edgy, or, you know, we can talk about it. And then it's kind of like we're this little group, and we're all going to walk together now. We're going to go for dinner, and then, you know, and then the next day we usually have another support group, and it's like nobody wants to leave, because we're just kind of like this group, and we're all so connected, and we don't want to do or say anything that's going to break that connection, because it just feels so warm and loving and inclusive. And it's you described it very well. I like how you said that.
Yeah, it's like our family. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we all want to be understood, right? And we all, I think we all want, we all want, I'll speak for myself, right? I want I want the negative voice in my head gone. I want the insecurity gone, and it is gone whilst we're in that space. So, but this is an experiential. We're talking an experience here. So the first time this happened to me, I went to a meeting of a group that I'd been to before, where I'd done a lot of my healing, and it wasn't actually an adoption. It wasn't actually an adoption group. It was a consciousness group, a group of people that wanted to understand why we feel the way that we do, and why most of the time we're not choosing how we feel, and what's choosing, and that sort of stuff, and who we truly are underneath all the voice in our head. And I came into the room, and there was a projector, and it was showing the different groups that had got together over the years. And there was me, and it was and the group that I'd been in 6 years before. So it was like a refresher meeting, really. And I felt the love. I felt the love in the room, and I just felt how much I'd changed in that week of the group, and since then. And again, the tears the tears of the nut stuff that's in our head, the stuff where we're so wrong. And I've had a completely different reaction to that stuff. Actually, I was listening to somebody talk about driving down the road and having a huge, insight into how wrong the voice in his head was, and how nutso he's thinking is a lot of the time. And at that time, I had the same realization about how off my thinking is. And he was in America, so he had to pull over off the freeway onto the hard shoulder or whatever. And I almost had to do the same, because it was the shared experience of realizing the truth of who we are and how wrong I've been, and what you're describing with bringing together the different members of the adoption triad, the birth mothers, the adoptees, and the adopted parents, is we understand how the others think, and the false stuff that we've made up. We see. I was talking about this the other day, and it's almost everybody's talking about sharing stories, but the story that I used to share was a work of fiction. It wasn't the truth. It wasn't. I had it so wrong. So the gift that you give within your group is getting people to truth, it seems to me. And there's a lot of peace there.
Right. Yeah.
And there's something just that came to my mind was we've had Joe Saul for I think 3 workshops, and I remember him telling or saying that you have to keep telling your story until you don't have to tell it anymore. And I think that's like that's just been something that he said that has really stuck with me. I think that we need to be able to, like he said, tell our story until we don't have to anymore, but we need to be able to do that with people that are listening and understand and can relate to it. And like you said, the group that you were going to wasn't about adoption, but yet, I mean, it goes into so many areas of your life where, you've got to stop the negative head talk. And
well, I mean, I've tried stopping it, and I've been unsuccessful in it. What has helped is realizing that it's not true. And as one of my mentors says, it becomes an opinion that I no longer value. That's what's helped me. Now, that's not to say that I don't value it sometimes. I just value it less. I value it less frequently. I value less of the thoughts. Because when I'm talking about my story here, really, I'm talking about the idea that she gave me away because she didn't love me enough. That's what that's the story that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the facts of the story. I'm talking about the meaning. And for me, the meaning that we give anything in life, and especially adoption. It's the meaning that we give it that causes us the pain, not the actual event.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a lot of talking.
I agree.
Yeah. I have to say one more thing that Joe Saul said to me that really helped empower me, because I was always used to say, I gave my daughter up for adoption. And he said, stop saying that. You had no choice. So now I don't say that anymore. And I'll say that she was taken from me, which empowers me more, because it wasn't my choice. But saying it the other way, that's what you think. And I had no choice, right? So
yeah, words kind of twisted and used another way can change everything. Yeah. That's when I first started, into all of this. I didn't know. I kept hearing different, like surrendered and relinquished, and I just when I was talking with a group of moms, I want to get the words right. I don't want to use a term that's going to be hurtful. I want to be respectful, and then you also find out that there's terminology is just like there's some that you can only use this term and you can only be this, and I just think that we need to be respectful and just let everybody use the term that works for themselves, because you're talking about yourself, so you should be able to use whatever term works for you. Because I know there's a lot that, like the term birth mother is just sets them right off. And so I just say, but if for this mom, if saying that that's what she is and that's her word, then let's just let people use the terms for themselves. That, like, I always hated the word adopter. I just thought, oh, that is just so negative. Like it just sounds like, I don't know. But anyhow, I'm getting better at not being triggered with terms. but Gail, you've got a buddy.
I know.
Gail's cat is joining us, just for the people that can't see.
We've never had a meowing cat,
Right.
actually made it onto the Zoom.
And he adopted me. He showed up at my place in February and hasn't left.
Yeah. Yeah, you're trying too. So yeah, pets, interesting one. So I we've had, me and my wife have had we have 2 dogs at the moment. We had another one before who died, unfortunately, but they've been a great for insight. They've been great for me for insights into this kind of stuff. And as I say that, I'm thinking people think I'm nuts, but anyway, it works for me. Sorry.
Yeah. I think that having a pet is so good for kids when they're growing up. I think it's almost like you can tell somebody who's never had a pet, I can't explain that. It's just like you kind of, no, I don't think you ever had a pet. And you ask them, they say, nope, they never have. And it's so obvious. I think that they just give you that, they don't judge you. They just love you no matter what. And so, yeah.
Okay, I've got a link here. This is unconditional love, and that space that you're going to in the support group, you're into a place of unconditional love, apart from the odd triggering comment by using terminology that gets people going,
Right.
Let's focus on the love bit, not the falling out bit. Yeah. So is there anything else that you'd like to share, Gail or Marnie, on this thriving stuff?
I don't know, it would almost be, it would be interesting to hear from somebody who attends the support groups, what has helped make them thrive, what, maybe like because I think that sometimes, like with the tell your story until you don't have to tell it anymore, I think that at one point, and I've seen it in people that have attended the group, like they have had that same story, just like you, Simon. You said that, the story that you had about your mom not wanting you, and then you had the realization that wasn't a true story. And when you see people let go of a belief that they've held on so tightly to for so long, it is just like you just see how they change and how much lighter they are. And I mean, there's been a few people over the years that they were so angry, and you could just see it. They were just angry people. I mean, they weren't angry at us, but like they would just come in, and it would be like there was this big weight on their shoulders, and they just kept saying the same story over and over and over again. And then it's like all of a sudden the light bulb went on, and they let it go. And the difference it made in seeing them, like Gail said, being empowered, like what Joe said to you, and I think it's just realizing that you don't have to hang on to that old stuff, and that it's okay to keep talking about it until all of a sudden one day, I guess they've just realized they don't need to have that same story anymore. And so that's helping them thrive. I mean, it's empowering them, it's helping them thrive. Yeah.
So for me, my issue was that I wasn't good enough in business. This not good enough flare up my birth mother. It lasted about 10 seconds, but it was like a tornado for 10 seconds. And then the lady that I was with said, well, she gently said, I'm a birth mum. I'm not a birth mum. She said, I'm a mum, Simon. I don't think it was kind of like that. And she said it in such a gentle way. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel that she was, there's lots of phrases going around for that. I didn't feel that she was negating my experience. I was like, yeah, I think that this feeling has come to me out of nowhere, and now it's gone again. I mean, but I talk about it being a volcano that erupted, but there was still a little after. It came from nowhere. It erupted without warning. I'd never felt that way before. I was 40, but then there was a little bit of smoke still afterwards. And then I read the Nancy Verrier book and thought, and that disempowered me. I thought, well, I'm stuck. I'm wounded. I'm primarily wounded. And I thought, well, this explains everything. So logically, I believed it all. And I thought, yeah, well, I know my source. I know the reason. I know the source of my pain now. And then when I realized that I'd got it wrong, that's when I bounced back higher than I'd been before in terms of my mood and my security and my self-esteem. And it comes through insight. I ask people to share their learnings on the podcast for a very specific reason, and that's because I'm trying to cause insights in the listeners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very, very intentionally. I'm trying to draw it out.
Yeah. I was going to say about myself, with my having my daughter taken from me, I never felt good enough, you know, and I never felt that I could look for her, because I was told that I couldn't and I would never see her again, even though I asked if something, I did ask if something happens to her parents, will she come to me? And they, of course, I was told no. And so it affected everything. It affected my relationships. I never felt like it affected my bringing up my other daughter. I was like I say, a backstage mother. I did everything with her because I was so afraid. I wanted to be with her with everything, and I always second guessed myself as a mother because I felt I wasn't good enough. And even with never relationships with men too, because I felt that I wasn't good enough. I was damaged goods. So it really, yeah.
Well, because I've done so much of my learning about this stuff with people from the outside of the adoption world, I've come to a very stunningly simple conclusion on this, and that nobody feels good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody feels good enough. We've all got a I don't know, I'm trying to think of a metaphor for this. We've all got a bowl of ice cream that says not good enough on the side of it, but everybody's flavor is unique. So I've got the not good enough. I've got a double scoop. So, well, funny enough, I don't actually have that anymore. That's nice. I had two scoops in my bowl. One said not good enough at business, and the other one said not good enough in adoption. Not good enough to be kept by your birth mother. That's what it said on my in my bowl. And over the last 12 years, I've had an industrial fan heater on the ice cream, and it's melted and then evaporated. Well, kind of. Yes, there's still a bit of there's still a little bit of juice. Still a bit of melted ice cream in the bottom of the bottom of the bowl, but it's the business one actually. Because I'd had that thought that I wasn't good enough in business for 10 years, for 15 years, something like that, and still more than that. Whereas they're not good enough because adopted. That scoop was a lot smaller. But it's part of the human condition that we don't think that we're good enough. No, right. Nobody thinks they're good enough. Not good enough. Mum, dad, brother, sister, son, daughter, podcast host, podcast guest. Take.
But you know that thing about the not good enough, like I never growing up, and I don't know why, because we didn't talk about being adopted, but I never felt like my mom hadn't loved me. And I think it must have been the way I was told that I was adopted. And I can't remember the words because I was probably 4. But I always, my adoptive mom was always like building up the self-confidence, and like you could do anything. And when I realized, because she always said that I sang lovely. Well, I mean, it's a good thing I didn't decide I was going to be a singer, because that would have been a real disaster. but it's I I think I had more positive head talk when I was a kid, because we were always told how good we were at things. And it was probably as I got older and I realized I wasn't quite as good as I'd been told I was.
Yeah.
But it is hard to change it, and then have that feeling like you're not good enough. And eventually, I don't know if it just comes with age, or they're like, you know what, I don't beat myself up like I used to. And I think part of that is age. I don't know. I do know I can't sing. So in my next life, I'm going to be a singer.
I'm using not good enough as shorthand, I guess. So like I was bullied, and and I failed my driving test, and I messed up some exams, and I fancied the girls that didn't fancy me, and I didn't fancy the one. I was all, that's what I'm talking about. Not good enough. Or when I felt I'd failed this exam and wasn't going to be with my best buddy, and because he was going to he passed the exam to get into this school. That for me was tricky. That's what I mean by not good enough, and not good enough business. But I never had that. I never had that not good enough because of adoption thing until I hit 40, and I had that brief tornado stuff. So
yeah. No, I get what you're how you were meaning it, but it was just, I just thought it was kind of funny how, like I, as a kid, I thought, I could, rule the world kind of thing. And then as I got older, then it was kind of like you say, oh, I'm not quite as good at math as I thought I was. And just, like real life experiences then that, yeah.
The truth, though, is that we are all brilliant. We're all perfect with our imperfections. We're all diamonds hidden in a pile of poop. The poop of our thinking, the poop that we've been through in our lives, and the poop that's the residual poop in our hearts because of stuff that's happened. But underneath all that is the truth of and the poop of our story as well, because the story is all thoughts. I'm talking about the story in our head, the one that we're not doing. That's true. I'm not talking about the facts. I'm talking about our interpretation. I'm talking about the meaning that we put it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the how we can kind of we take the facts and twist them into a story that isn't true.
Yeah.
But we all do that, and I think sometimes that's where the line, like, don't take it personally, and sometimes that's what you have to remind yourself too, is not to take it personally, because it's if someone, like for example, my siblings that I'm not in touch with any longer, at first I was really hurt, and then then I had to realize, okay, you know what, it's not about me, it's about them, and we didn't grow up together, so how could we think or do things the same way? So they were reacting from their own life experiences, and so it was just, I was able to let that go, and that was a huge, relief to be able, and it wasn't letting them go like in a way that is saying that I didn't care about them or love them anymore. It was just in a way that, okay, you know what, you can't keep forcing yourself on these people. And it's not, I mean, I wasn't being wrong and they weren't being wrong. We were just coming from our life experiences, and that sometimes then that helps that head talk. Then you can just let that go, because it really wasn't about you. That was just how it was.
Their poop.
Yeah. I let go of the poop. Yeah.
Well, if somebody tries to give you a bit of poop and you don't accept it, it's still theirs.
Yeah. I have to remember this poop story.
It's a family audience. It's been a delight. We're going to put a link to the Forget Me Not Family Society in the links, guys. Is there anything else that you'd like to share? I'd like to close off by saying thank you for such a fascinating conversation and your openness. I loved it. Is there anything that you'd like to close with?
I'd just like to thank you for reaching out to us, and I've really enjoyed our conversations. We've gone deep and we've gone light, and I think that's the balance. So I think the thing I'd like to leave with is just support groups and being together. I think that is so helpful, and I appreciate you putting us out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Simon, for including me. I really appreciate it. It's been great. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, listeners. We'll see you all again very soon.